Good morning. Welcome to the daily chapter reading of The Gift of Anger, Aaron Gandhi, Lesson 3. Wherever he traveled, Babaji was walked by people cheering and screaming for him. I didn't have a real sense of how overwhelming that could be until I joined him when he was on an overnight train to Mumbai. I was excited to be part of his small entourage and felt very special to be there. He insisted on traveling third class, but the railroad put on an extra car just for us. So even though we had no cushions and were sitting on the same hard benches as most travelers, we had the car to ourselves. As we pulled into the first train station, I looked out the window and saw hundreds of people crowd on the platform calling his name and reaching out to touch him. A wave of voices began chanting, "Long live Gandhi," and I felt a surge of pride basking in his reflected glory. Babaji always remained humble, but I hadn't quite mastered that yet. So many people admired my grandfather, and there I was, sitting next to him on the same bench. The adulation thrilled me. But when I looked over at Babaji, I could see that he didn't care about recognition for himself. Instead, he waved and spoke to people and held a cloth sack outside the train window to collect money for the poor. Everyone donated something. When one woman said, "I have no money to give," he pointed to a silver bracelet she was wearing and with a warm smile said, "That will do fine." Sure enough, she dropped the bracelet into the sack. As we pulled away from the station, Babaji sighed and went back to his work. But at the next station, an even larger crowd had gathered, and the same scene was repeated all over again. Even though it was now the middle of the night, excited crowds appeared at the next station and the next, and at every station on our route. Passengers trying to get on or off could hardly make their way through the jostling crowds. Babaji repeated his waving and speaking and collecting money at every stop. I quickly realized that although adulation was wonderful, it was also exhausting. There was no peace for him or anyone else on that train. As I continued to travel with Babaji, I discovered that whatever time of day or night he went out, adoring crowds gathered. If he traveled by car, people would line the roads for mile after mile, waving and weeping and calling his name. The routes weren't announced ahead of time.
Martindale Station.
And certainly there was no social media then. In fact, most of the people were living in villages with no phones, so I can't explain how they knew when he would be passing by. But some mysterious force drew them time after time. For political reasons, Babaji shared the love showered on him. He knew that hundreds of thousands, even millions of people were ready to follow and make any sacrifices he asked of them. But I soon came to understand that the adulation came at a price. Outside of the ashram, he could never find peace or solitude. Whenever he visited cities in India, throngs of people gathered in the street, chanting his name and waiting for hours to get a glimpse of him. Once Babaji appeared and spoke or waved, the mob would disperse, only to be replaced quickly by another crowd. Babaji liked to go to bed by 9 p.m. because he got up at 3 a.m. to meditate, and he began his full day with 5 a.m. prayers. But people stayed in the streets calling for him until late in the night, so he often got very little peaceful sleep. The relentlessness was nerve-shattering, but Babaji never lost his cool or broke down. A lot of people dream
Martindale Station.
of being famous.
Doors normally open on the right.
And imagine that celebrities like George Clooney and Angelina Jolie are secretly filled to be constantly besieged by fans and photographers. They think it would be great to be in the limelight and have millions of admirers. After traveling with Babaji, I felt a little bit of a celebrity myself, and yes, it was often fun. You'll feel important, and it feeds your ego to be on the receiving end of love and acclaim. But I can also understand why some stars beg for privacy or retreat to private islands or gay-type communities or behind hedges in the Hollywood Hills. However much they thrive by being in the public eye, they also need that private time to center themselves again.
The next stop is McKnight West Wind Station.
The media now makes celebrities of some good people who are famous for no obvious reasons. They have millions of followers on social media and post pictures of themselves strutting down a red carpet in a sequined gown or prancing on an exotic beach in a tiny bikini. Occasionally, I will point to a picture on a magazine cover of someone I don't know and ask, what has she done? And nobody will be able to tell me. Attracting crowds and followers has always been a byproduct of being an actor or politician or humanitarian. Those people have a core purpose in their lives, and the renown that comes with it is just something to cope with. But people who focus only on achieving fame have an emptiness in their lives. They hope other people will fill by cheering for them and feeding their egos. Instead of achieving success,
McKnight West Wind Station. Doors normally open on the left.
because of talent, hard work, or important ideals, they are famous for being famous. Unlike real celebrities, they never seek solitude because they have no need to recharge. Babaji didn't have staff of publicists and advisors to shelter him, and he certainly had no hedges to hide behind. But after keeping his puppet face strong, he would retreat to Sevagram for refuge. He could have located his ashram anywhere, but he chose a remote spot in central India. Given my long walk from the train station the first day I arrived, I knew how difficult it was to get there, and Babaji wouldn't make it easier. He even asked the local government not to set up a bus route between Wardha, the closest town, and the ashram.
The next stop is Whitehorn Station.
He wanted people coming only if they had serious intent and weren't just trying to get a peek at the famous Gandhi. You don't have to be a movie star or a Mahatma to need solitude. It's crucial to all of us who have a real sense of self. My grandfather often joked that he could find moments of silence in only two places, the ashram and prison. For him, preserving personal solitude was a way to fuel inner peace. Finding your own place for retreat is crucial in our busy and often overwhelming world. It doesn't have to be a fancy. An hour in your own room with no distractions will suffice. So will time curled in bed, writing down thoughts in a journal. We all need to be able to take stock of our lives, to meditate and reflect if we want to grow as individuals. After some personal time for thought and introspection, we will be able to fully connect with others in more deeply meaningful ways. Babaji made every Monday at the ashram a day of silence when he would catch up on his writing. On other days, he didn't want just passive quiet, he believed in active reflection and mediation. He often retreated to his spinning wheel because he found the physical concentration it required allowed him to focus on his meditating. I got pretty good at spinning while I was at the ashram, and I sometimes challenged Babaji to see which of us could go faster. He didn't mind the competition. Aaron now beats me consistently at spinning, he wrote delightedly to my parents. Even though I sometimes turned it into a game, that time spent spinning and mediating was important to both of us. I liked being quiet and could spend hours all by myself. Grandfather lauded this trait in a letter to my parents in which he wrote, "Maintaining silence is something we all need to learn from Aaron."
Whitehorn Station. Doors normally open on the left.
Many parents think they are doing a great favor to their children by keeping them busy. They fill their children's time after school with soccer games and tennis practice, with ballet classes and gymnastics training, with piano and violin lessons. The children go from one activity to another, and they never have time to just think and play and discover who they are when left to themselves. All this enrichment may be fine, but parents should also think about giving their children the gift of solitude now and then. As adults may continue the pattern of an overscheduled life, boasting about how much they accomplish in a day and how little sleep they get. Multitasking has become part of everyday experience.
The next stop is Rundle Station.
And having a fast-paced life with no time to pause, reflect, and recoup is too often the norm. This problem has existed for a long time. My grandfather had a German friend who came to visit and chided us that it was a sin to sleep away 1/3 of your life. Babaji had a quick response. Sleeping 1/3 of your life adds 1/3 to your lifespan. Babaji believed that we don't need to make life faster, we need to make it more peaceful. Computers, smartphones, and digital apps have increased the pace of our lives, and it's no surprise that the advantages they bring come with downsides. We can get in touch with people thousands of miles away in a moment, but the long descriptive letters
Rendell Station. Doors normally open on the left.
we once revoked, filled with details of our families and the environs, have mostly been replaced by short and practical emails. Does anyone really think that communicating in emojis will improve human relations and add to understanding and peace? Social media gives us friends and followers, yet our connections are often flimsier than we realize. We can't turn for comfort or help to the friends when we know only as a Facebook photo, and it is unlikely we will convince people about an important issue like discrimination or tolerance if we make our case in a tweet. Scattered relationships don't add up to a cohesive society.
The next stop is Marlborough Station.
But it's also wrong to totally condemn our current technologies. If used correctly, the better communications we have can lead to a positive change. A couple of years ago, I sat next to my friend Deepak Chopra at a peace conference in Berlin. While he was listening to the speeches, Deepak was also busy on his smartphone, and every now and then he would announce to the crowd, "Your message has reached 2 million people." I was happy that my friend has 2 million followers on Twitter and other social media. Tweeting about peace initiatives is surely better than many of the other uses of social media. I know my grandfather would have used Twitter and Facebook and other social media just as he used radio broadcasts to communicate his message in his day. But we can't change the world by hitting a like on a post. Social media is useful only if it arouses people to real action. The Arab Spring is said to have been organized on social media. Repression was common all over the Middle East, and when someone started stoking the embers, sparks began to fly. People went into the streets and connected face to face and began to bring about the change they thought they wanted. Sadly, the same tools are used to radicalize people to do evil. The media claims that some young Arab men participate in suicide bombings
Marlborough Station. Doors normally open on the left.
because they are promised there will be bevies of maidens waiting at the other side. I don't think young Muslims really believe this ridiculous theory, but the combination of repressive regimes, stringent religious rules, and prejudice in their adoptive countries has made life so intolerable that they would rather die. My only hope is that the message of peace, whether it is spread by radio, television, or Twitter, will ultimately become more powerful than the messages of hate and hopelessness. People have never been more connected than they are now, but sometimes it seems they have never been more lonely. When I traveled with Babuji, we either talked together or sat alone with our thoughts. In other words, we either related directly or we took the time to enjoy our solitude, look out the window, and just be with ourselves.
The next stop is Franklin Station.
Now people spend every free moment staring at their smartphones, so they are neither alone nor truly connected to others. When Babaji was with people, he was inspiring them, relating to them, and sharing his ideas. Then he retreated to times of solitude at the ashram, where he would regroup and confront only himself, letting his mind recharge in quiet. I have tried to learn that techniques of always being fully in the place where I am. But technology can leave us in a state of in-betweenness, never really relating to others because we are too busy glancing at our phones, and never really alone because we are texting rather than thinking. The netherworld that technology creates leaves us feeling unharbored. I sometimes see children sitting in restaurants or at a park while their parents are busy on their smartphones. I don't know why it is so important for the parents to be texting the office or a distant friend at that moment, but the person really getting the message is the child sitting right there, who learns that she is not worthy of her parents' full attention. I look on sadly and think how lucky I was to have had the nurturing attention of my parents and my grandfather. People around the world wanted to hear from Babaji, but when he was with me, his focus never wandered. He made me feel heard and important.
Franklin Station. Doors normally open on the left.
If children have your full attention when they need it, they will be better able to be independent and alone at other times. Babaji believed we should spend our time in pursuit of the truth, which he always capitalized because he saw it as the goal of life. If we make an effort to understand the truth, we will get closer to understanding what life is really about. Babaji admitted that he had only fleeting glimpses of the truth, but he described it as having a luster of 1,000,000 times more intense than that of the sun we daily see with our eyes. We can't recognize any of that brilliance if we are constantly distracting ourselves or focusing on the trivial. The noise of conformity drowns out the silence of truth.
The next stop is Barlow Maxwell Station.
Many musicians and artists say they get their creative breakthroughs in unexpected moments. A big idea occurs to them in the shower or just as they are drifting off to sleep. Some writers keep notepads by the side of their bed to jot down the words and images that come unbidden during the night. There is nothing magical about showers and beds, but often they are the only places where we are alone and allowing our minds to wander and to solve problems. I learned from Babaji that we need input from the world, seeing people and having experiences so we have a broad view.
Barlow Maxwell Station. Doors normally open on the left.
But we also need time and solitude to make sense of it. After we moved to America, my Wi-Fi, Sunanda, and I found the M.K. Gandhi Institute for Nonviolence and later the Gandhi Worldwide Education Institute. For many years, I was proud to be invited to the annual Renaissance Weekend, an American invitation-only retreat for leaders in business, politics, and the arts. It's known as the granddaddy of all ideas festivals and is ended by former presidents, Olympians, and Nobel Prize winners. Surrounded by great minds getting together for workshops and talks on improving public policy, I felt stimulated and energized. But I knew I needed to go back home and to work hard to share the ideas with others and bring them to life. I needed the balance of outside ideas with my own quiet time to think about how I can make them real.
The next stop is Calgary Zoo Station.
The constant buzz of media, activity, and ideas can make us feel energized, but we have to be careful that we're not distracting ourselves with trivia. Whatever I'm doing and however busy I may be, I try to follow Babaji's example of recharging. So I take time every day to be with my own thoughts and meditate. A lot of people wrinkle their noses when I mention meditation and say something like, nope, that's not for me. Maybe meditation sounds too spiritual to them, or they imagine they would have to wear a long robe and be surrounded by incense to make it work. Let me assure you, you can wear gym clothes and sit on a park bench. All you really need to do is pause and reflect on your own life. I do that as often as I can. I turn my thoughts inward and ponder what's important for the world and what I would like to achieve.
Calgary Zoo Station. Doors normally open on the left.
For myself and others. Now that I'm older, I know that what matters to me is living in such a way that people see me as a model of respect and love. I've started to refer to myself as a peace farmer because a farmer plants the seeds and expects they will germinate and produce a valuable crop. I plant the seeds of peace and nonviolence with young people and hope they will flower. I don't try to evaluate my impact by how many likes I get on Facebook or how often the message is retweeted. I care about having a message that speaks to who I am and recognizes that I don't live just for myself. Grandfather once said to me, I feel blessed for who I am and I hope you do too. I do feel blessed every day, all of us should. Too often, no matter our age, we make the mistake of comparing.
The next stop is Bridgeland Memorial Station.
ourselves to those who seem to have more than we do, more possessions, more fame, more toys. But if we open our eyes a little wider, we will notice how much sadness and deprivation also exist, and we will realize that we can use our own lessons to make a big difference. We need those moments of quiet and solitude away from the rush of people and expectations to put our experiences in perspective. When we compare ourselves to those around us or the celebrities in the news, we can't see the bigger picture. Many people find it difficult to be quiet and still these days. Even I am sometimes overwhelmed by all the distractions. We can listen to music and the podcasts and videos and surf the internet. Experts say that more data has been created in the past 2 years than in all the centuries.
Bridgeland Memorial Station. Doors normally open on the left.
And millennia before then. All that rush of noise makes it even more urgent that we remember to find the small pockets of quiet for ourselves. I speak often now at universities, which should be places where young people of different ethnicities, religions, beliefs, and cultures live and learn together. But however much the administration tried to encourage diversity with more open admissions policies, the students themselves too often undermine it. They join fraternities and sororities with people who look and think just like they do, or they demand safe zones in classrooms so they don't have to think about things that may be new or uncomfortable. I hear about schools that put trigger warnings on books and lectures in case some students might be shocked by an idea they don't share. How is that learning?
The next stop is City Hall Station.
Too many colleges have given into this narrow-mindedness. Education needs to be more than acquiring textbook knowledge and preparing for a career to make money. My grandfather would be unhappy to see how closed off and fearful students have become at so many of America's finest universities. Papaji's concept of solitude didn't mean blocking yourself off from new ideas or from people who think differently than you. He wanted all ideas to flow. He listened to everyone and then used those moments when he was by himself to weigh all the options and decide which direction he wanted to pursue. Papaji wanted to be face to face with people who held different opinions. I think he would be dismayed by college students who walk out of lectures when they disagree with what is being said. An intellectual safe space is really the most dangerous place to be because it keeps you from recognizing other outlooks and approaches. It is a breeding ground for prejudice and a continued misunderstanding. Papaji would surely admire schools like the University of Chicago that have made a point of saying that students should not retreat from ideas and perspectives different from their own. Your mind should be like a room with many open windows. Papaji told me, let the breeze flow in from all but refuse to be blown away by anyone. I think that is absolutely crucial advice. You can let the breezes of information and ideas and different viewpoints flow into your life, but they don't have to overwhelm you. Having an open mind does not mean accepting everything you hear. It just means knowing that the simple act of listening is important too. Be part of the world and take in all the ideas you can, and then retreat to your solitude or quiet place and decide how to use the ideas to make a better world.